And this is the current weather here in Sweden. Bit cloudy, still sunny, but a lot better than the last few days where it has been raining and raining and raining. So let's talk about Swedish climate and weather. Now when you're talking about weather, you're always going to talk about extremes. Now keep in mind, when I'm talking about extremes, that is not daily life. So keep in mind when I'm talking about extremes and when I'm talking about average, to make sure that you are well informed. Now let's continue with this video. Now, when you're from anywhere else in Europe, or maybe from America or any of the other countries watching my videos, you think Swedish is a quite northern country, which automatically makes you think lots of winter, lots of snow, lots of ice, lots of cold. And to a certain extent, you are correct. Swedish winters are definitely cold and they're long. And Sweden is a very, very long country. From tip to tip, it is quite tall if you look at it on the map. They say if you flip Sweden over and keep the southern tip at its place and you flip it over, it reaches all the way to Italy. That's how big Sweden is. So it's hard to talk about the one climate Sweden has, because it is so big. Now, I live quite southern in Sweden. For me, that means winters are usually like 5 months long. We get a good amount of snow, and the coldest temperature I have ever seen is minus 27 degrees Celsius. But that's the coldest. Normally, we're around minus 10, minus 14 during the winter. Now, the higher you go at the most northern part of Sweden, you get to be in the Arctic Circle. Now over there, even in August, you can get freezing temperatures. So there's a big difference over there. With that in mind, I'm going to keep talking about the southern part of Sweden where I live, where I can actually tell you what I've lived through. Now, when you're talking about the winters here, that does make a little bit of a misconception about Swedish weather. Yes, it does get cold during the winters, and yes, the winters are long. But the summers still get really warm here. We've had temperatures of 45 degrees Celsius warm in the shade underneath a tree. So yeah, it does get really warm here during the summers. Now, Sweden doesn't just have two different climates, because one part of Sweden is in the Arctic Circle and the other part is more in the south. We also get a difference between a land climate and an ocean climate. If you live more in the coast, temperatures are going to vary towards living more in the center of the country. Now, I live in the south and in the center, so away from the coast. Which means we got very warm summers and cold winters. If you're talking about rain, rain is rain. Yeah, it's not much different than from Holland. Maybe it rains a little bit less, but the last couple of years have been really dry. Now, I won't get into climate change too much, but we have had a couple of record-setting summers where it was unnaturally dry and we had a lot of forest fires. So if you don't like spring and you don't like fall with a lot of rain, then Sweden might be good for you, because Sweden does have all 4 seasons. We do have winter, spring, summer, fall. But the spring and fall are kind of short, because it turns so fast back into winter or so fast back into summer. And that is pretty nice. Now here in the middle south of Sweden, the most snow we've ever had was about 1 meter. Maybe a little over a meter. Like max 1.5 meters is the most snow I've ever seen here. But the most rain I've ever seen is like a week-long rainstorm without a break. So, but those are the extremes. Most of the time, the snow is like half a meter every winter. I've had one winter where we didn't get any snow, and I've had a couple of winters where we got so much snow that some people weren't able to go to work. And now, if you're from Holland and you know anything about the trains in Holland, you know as soon as there is a little bit of snow or a little bit of leaves during the fall, then trains won't be operating anymore. Sweden is prepared for all this. The trains will continue to work unless there's a really extreme situation. So if you're dependent on train traffic for some reason, you can be assured that you'll be able to go anywhere, even during the winter. Now, I've said this before in my vlogs, but if you are planning to move to Sweden or planning to be here during a winter, make sure you're staying in a location where they plow the snow for you. Like as you can see over here, I live on a tarmac road, and this road is a road between two larger places. So the government does plow this road for me, which means it's quite easy for me to leave my house and go to work during the winter. Now, some people, like myself, like to live in the forest. I really love living in the forest. But sometimes, if you find a house in a forest, it looks like this. It looks like one big gravel road that's almost grassy, and then at the end of the road you would have your house. Now, if you decide to buy a house like this, that's fine, you can do that, there's no problem. But when a road looks like this towards your house, nobody's coming to plow it for you. That means if you're planning to buy a house at the end of this road, you need to plow it yourself. Which means getting a four-wheeler or an ATV with a plow in front of it, or a tractor, or anything that can plow a road for you. And it's quite normal during winters that if you want to drive a normal car through the snow, a normal car can't deal with more than 10 to 20 centimeters of snow. So that is the amount of snow that can absolutely fall in an afternoon. Sometimes you wake up with just a teensy bit of snow, and then the next morning when you wake up, there is 50 centimeters snow than the day before. So if you intend to buy a house on the end of a road like this, you would have to plow your road sometimes twice a day. So that's just something you want to have to keep in mind. And the more northern you go into Sweden, the more important that becomes. So I can't stress that enough. Lots of people have moved to Sweden, and then after 3 years or so, they move back to where they came from because they can't deal with snow or the winters. So that's important. Now, the next important thing that lots of people in Sweden have to deal with is a lack of light during the winters. And that's very important. Let me show you something we've got for that. Now, imagine the Swedish winters are long. So you have to be inside your house for a long time. I mean, you might enjoy winter sports and stuff, but still, most of the time is going to be spent inside. You're not going to be sunbathing in your garden or gardening during the winter. So lots of time inside, and there's already a lot less sun in Sweden than there is normally during the winters in other countries. So we bought ourselves a daylight lamp. This lamp mimics daylight with the correct UV and vitamin lamps and stuff. So people here in Sweden like to use daylight lamps and take extra vitamins for when they don't get enough sun. Now, I know I'm making the winter feel very extreme when I'm talking about it like this, but it's all what you're used to, you know? I am originally from Holland. I lived I lived around The Hague most of my life, and I'm not used to winters like these. So to me, it sounds a bit extreme, but you get used to it very fast. And if you think about it before you act, like buying the correct house in the correct location, that you don't have to plow your own roads every day or 2 times a day, then it isn't that bad. You also need to invest in the correct kind of clothing. I had somebody comment a while ago that when winters are colder than 27 degrees, I said you can't be outside for more than half an hour because then your body core temperature goes down and you don't want that. And this person said, well, it seems like you don't have the correct clothing. To a certain extent, that is true. Of course, with better clothing, you can stay outside longer. But there's no amount of clothing that can have you outside all day when it is minus 27. That's just not going to happen. Unless you're also doing physical activity, but you can't keep that up all day. So, and again, minus 27 was an extreme case. I've seen that 3 times since I've lived here, and I've lived here for more than 11 years now. Now, enough about winter, let's talk about the summer. So, Swedish summers are warm. There are a lot of lakes in Sweden, and people love to go swimming during the summer. People need to go into the water to cool down. It is not strange to have temperatures between 25 to 30 degrees during the summer. Of course, depending on where you live, but around where I live, that's the case. We're here at the end of August, and you can see plant life is still flourishing. I need to cut the grass again. And yeah, summers are just very good. Summers are nice and warm, good temperatures to walk around in just your t-shirt and short pants and go swimming in lakes. Now, some summers are better than others, of course, that's the same like everywhere, but in general, Sweden is known for being able to go bathing during the summer. Cutting your grass in your garden during the summer is a lot of work. Of course, depending on how big your lawn is. But as you can see, I need to cut my grass again. And this year has been pretty good. I think the number of times I have had to cut my grass, I can count on one hand. But we've had summers where you had to cut your grass almost every week. And that's a lot of work. Now, this of course depends on how much you care about a nice looking lawn. Some people will cut it like every other day, but yeah, I'm not one of those people. I don't mind if I get some flowers and some different plants, and it's okay as long as I can walk around without it tickling my calves. But yeah, cutting your grass is a normal kind of job. It's not too much different than in Holland. Although in Holland I didn't cut too much grass. We didn't have that much of a garden. Now, if you want to do more gardening, some people are interested in gardening so that they want to know what kind of plant zone you live in. I will correct this with a number right here if I'm saying it wrong, but I believe we live in plant zone 3 here in Sweden. So that should tell some of the garden enthusiasts what kind of plants they can have here in Sweden. Of course, you can solve a lot with a greenhouse, but of course you also need the space for a greenhouse, and you need to build it. So plant zone 3, or this one. And I do realize when I just said that plant zones do vary across the entirety of Sweden, but you can always Google and type in plant zone map of Sweden and you'll get your answer there too. Now, to end off with, I've got sun in my face, hold on. That's better. So let me end off with some actual factual numbers here that I've just Googled. So Sweden has a temperate climate, for people that know what that means. But that just means that there is a lot of pine trees, a lot of forest, some mountains, and that kind of stuff. Now, the coldest it has ever been recorded here in Sweden is minus 52 degrees Celsius. Now, of course, this is all the way up north. But the hottest it's been is, like I said, it's been over 45 degrees Celsius during the winter, and that's of course in the south. Sweden gets Sweden gets between 500 and 800 millimeters of rain per year. And that's considered a little bit drier than the global average. So if you don't like a lot of rain, Sweden is not too bad. Now let's talk about average temperatures. During the winter, the highest temperatures you can expect are around 1 to 0 degrees. The coldest temperatures you can expect are around minus 18 to minus 22. So when I'm talking about 27, of course, that is something I've only experienced 3 times in the 11 years I've been living here. Now, average temperatures for the summer, the warmest you can get are between 22 to 20 degrees Celsius. And the lowest average temperatures for summer are between 10 and 13. So quite stable. Those are average temperatures, but these average temperatures are taking over many, many, many years. These extreme temperatures I've been talking about all this time are from the last few years due to climate change. Take that how you want. Maybe you don't believe in climate change, which would be silly, but yeah. So lately temperatures are a lot higher than the 22 degrees Celsius during the summer. Let me prove it to you. Today we have 26 degrees Celsius, and that's in the shade of my house. And this is the end of August. Now, what do I want you to take away from this video? If you lived in Holland like me and are coming to Sweden, or if you live somewhere along the middle of, let's say if you live in the big populations of Europe or along those lateral lines, I want you to take away that Sweden can be very cold and can also be very warm. So have good winter clothing, have good summer clothing, but also during the winters be prepared for snow and ice. People are very much about safety during the winters here. People tell you to take little candles in your car. So if your car ever gets stuck in the snow and you have to wait a couple of hours for a rescue, then you can burn a candle inside your car so you at least keep the temperature up a little bit. People here in Sweden, when they go for their driver's license, need to take an ice slippery test, which is in Sweden is called the halkbana. And without that test, you don't get your driver's license. People need to learn how to control their car through a slippery surface. People also teach their children to take ice picks with them when they're going skating on natural ice. So when they go through the ice, they can use those ice picks to get themselves out of the water. So people take winters serious here. Now, I would say take the summer serious as well, because since I've lived here, we had 2 summers that had a lot of forest fires. So you might be changing from nice city living with comfortable shops everywhere close to a beautiful private forest, which is amazing, but you do have to keep in mind stuff like forest fires can happen. Now, other stuff that can happen if you live away from civilization like I do is power outages. As you see, in some places we still have power lines going through the air. And that means that falling snow, falling trees and lightning can still give you power outages. Now they have been working on putting all the power lines underneath the ground, and they have done that for a lot of places, which takes away that danger, but something to think about. Now, wind. Things like storms do happen here. We got them in Holland too, or in the Netherlands. But I don't know, I feel like they happen more regular here. It might be the same amount, it's hard to tell. But storms, when they happen in Sweden, they are not more extreme because of how hard they blow. They are more extreme because of what happens. It's very normal to be on your way to work and a tree has fallen over across the road. So lots of Swedish people have chainsaws in their car as standard to be able to get to work. I don't, because I know that if a road is blocked, I have at least two other roads that I can use to get to work. So I can always drive around the fallen tree. But some people don't. They have only one way to get to work, and sometimes that's blocked after a storm. And of course, when you get storms during winters, it's a little bit more extreme. So we might have the same amount of storms than the Netherlands has, but it's more extreme because of what happens during a storm. Now, during this video, I've been talking a lot about the extremes, like the worst case scenarios, the hottest, the coldest, the stormiest, the snowiest, all that kind of stuff. And that's quite normal when you're talking about a video like this. You want to talk about extremes so people are prepared for the most extreme. But on average, a normal year with normal weather is very nice here. Still more snow than you're used to back in the Netherlands, but very nice. I love the winters here. I love the summers here. I love the spring. And I'm okay with the fall. The fall I'll tolerate. But okay. So I hope this video was informative to you, and we'll see each other next time. Bye. Please like and subscribe. And if you want to support us or just want something that Lihao has made, you can buy this little notebook, Look for Stars. The links are in the description, all on Amazon, and you can buy them. See, you can make some beautiful notes in there. The video that just popped up, that one is, according to YouTube, something you will like. So try looking at that one. See you later. Bye.